Hey guys, this is Drax back with another how-to guide, and this time I'll be showing you how to dominate with Kylo Ren. So Kylo Ren is Leia and Han Solo's son. His real name is Ben Solo, but in trying to leave the past behind, he was given the name Kylo Ren by Snoke, then appointed master over a group of dark side users known as the Knights of Ren. Adam Driver is probably my favourite actor in the latest films playing the part of Kylo, but sadly doesn't voice the character in game. I believe he was too busy to do so at the time they were recording, so instead this was done by Matthew Mercer. In game, Kylo has 3 abilities, and these are Poe, Freeze and Frenzy. His weapon of course being that unique lightsaber, the design of which is needed to divert extra heat buildup from a cracked kyber crystal. This is why there are 2 vents on the side of it. So his first ability is easy enough to understand. Kylo uses a Force to pull enemies off their feet and towards him. Force pull is quite a legendary ability amongst Battlefront fans, as the original Battlefront 2 also featured this force power, and it was one of the best abilities to have. This remains the same with Kylo. Pulling enemies towards you whilst knocking them off their feet will allow you to take out single targets easily. I recommend, if you're on your own, to pull a maximum of 2 targets at a time. The reason being, this pull draws attention to you from all who have been affected. So those enemies, if they have the time to get up and fight for their lives, they will. On your own, 2 is easy to manage, so that's my safe number. For larger groups, it's actually a great team play skill if you have multiple friendlies nearby, as you can pull more enemies directly into your friendlies. With them off their feet, you can take out a few whilst your teammates deal with the rest. The force pull is also good if you can't quite get a target. Maybe for you to push up would be too dangerous, or they are simply trying to get away. The key here is to bring them to you. This will minimise danger and make for easy eliminations. The next ability is Freeze. Here, Kylo freezes all enemies in front of him. This disables enemies, stopping them from using any weapons or abilities for a short duration. This one I find works well, both offensively and when trying to get away. When you are attacking, you freeze opponents to get the advantage. The base duration will normally allow you to take out 2 targets whilst taking little to no damage, so any more than that I would advise using it defensively to freeze and get away. This goes for larger groups and maybe when you have multiple heroes on your tail. It can also be used quite well in combination with a pull if you bring multiple enemies towards you. Pull them in, get a few kills, the rest who are still alive will get back up and try to fire, and then you can freeze them. I originally used to combine these attacks immediately one after another, but since each works to disable opponents for a short time, space the 2 out a bit to maximise killing potential. Pull a group in, kill a few, then freeze and take out the rest. Then we have the final ability, and this is called Frenzy. Here Kylo enters a frenzied rage and leaps from enemy to enemy, striking them with his lightsaber. This is great for chasing down targets, working as a closing attack, or in areas where you have a few enemies around you that have been weakened or at a disadvantage, maybe because you hit them with one of Kylo's other abilities. On its own, in truth, it's not the best ability. You really need to use this one when you have the advantage. Maybe that would be when enemies are unaware, you are behind them, or more likely after using pull or freeze. The problem with this one is that infantry and other heroes can roll away from it, dodging the ability with ease, so that's why I say get the advantage first with the pull or freeze and then use this ability to do some damage. Sometimes Frenzy will miss, and this is normally when you are not close enough to a target. If so, it then goes back into cooldown, so make sure you are close enough to hit the opponent when you want to use this one. Kylo is not really one of those villains you can jump right in with. He relies on his abilities to get the upper hand first, and then he really does work. So how about his star cards? Well, thankfully Kylo has quite a few great cards that really do benefit him. To tell the truth, I've had to do a fair bit of experimentation to decide which are best for me. I personally think Poe is Kylo's best ability, so for this I have 2 cards affecting this one ability. The first is Power Reach, giving Kylo's Force Poe an increased area of effect. This will allow you to grab targets who often think they are too far away. You can stay a bit further back, or just stop someone from running away in HVV. I combined this with what is probably the most important card, Harsh Poe. At top tier, this will make the pull ability deal 50 damage to enemies, making it a bit easier to kill heavies who have more health and of course any other class. Pulling them in and dealing damage means that when they arrive at your feet they are easier to eliminate. Out of all the cards, I would say this one really is a must have. Kylo Ren without this card is definitely not as good. The final card from my Galactic Assault loadout is Bloodletting Frenzy. This gives Kylo the ability to deal 25 bonus damage at top tier when he is below 25% health. I decided on this one as although Kylo starts with 750 health, a decent amount, he can't buff himself and doesn't have a health regen card either. So the answer here is to give him the ability to deal more base damage and stay alive by eliminating enemies faster when he is low on health himself. I did have Bloodlust in this slot, but found striking enemies more doesn't aid survivability, which is what I personally value on a hero or villain. However, when playing HVV, I go with a card called Resilience. This makes Kylo deal more damage with his lightsaber when he is in close proximity to another villain. You're always in close proximity to another villain in HVV, so this means Kylo constantly deals more damage when his card is equipped for this mode. So that's the cards I've gone with, but like I say, he does have a great selection, so you may have a different combination that works well for you. These are just my recommendations to anyone who is struggling to find something that works. Now here's just a few final tips that I think are important when it comes to using Kylo Ren. Number 1 is block. He has a block ability, so use it. This is especially important in HVV but also in Galactic Assault. Not only will it stop you from taking damage, blocking will also allow you to move up, working as a way to get targets in range of your abilities. If an opponent is shooting at you, Kylo does have the ability to deflect shots back their way. This requires you to simply point right back at your target whilst blocking. Against lightsaber using heroes, a block will temporarily stun any Jedi and leave them open for an attack. Timing blocks and hits well will make a big difference to your survivability. The second tip is dodge. Another pretty basic thing, but it makes you a harder target to hit with blaster shots and avoids lightsaber attacks. This often being the case if you have no stamina to block anymore. It can be used to close gaps and also confuse the enemy's aim, so make sure to dodge around a lot as this will be of great benefit to you. And the final tip is don't spam attack. Only click the attack button for the number of times you want to hit. Spamming can often waste time and lead to damage being taken, so just don't do it. In conclusion, Kylo Ren is an aggressive villain with a twist. With no health buffs and no way to regen health through the use of star cards either, you really need to rely on his abilities, disabling opponents and taking them out before any major damage can be received. With Kylo you also need to time your attacks well. Picking off small groups of enemies is recommended, utilising both freeze and poe to put enemies at a disadvantage. Once they are in that state, groups can be removed with the frenzy ability. I personally think Kylo Ren is fantastic in HVV. He may not always put out the greatest damage, but his abilities are perfect for helping your team out. In Galactic Assault he is definitely harder to play than some of the other villains, but if you do utilise the tactics that I spoke about in this video, consistently putting enemies at a disadvantage, then I'm sure you'll be able to dominate the battlefront with Kylo Ren. So hopefully you have enjoyed this guide, maybe it's helped you out in some way. I really hope that's the case. I just want to say a big thanks to everyone coming to the channel. I see a lot of people appreciate these guides and are improving in games, so that's great to see. Glad I've been able to help you all out a bit. Anyway, I'll be back with more guides, updates and gameplay soon. So as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.